Welcome to Shadows of Sengoku. Today, we're running a pretty wild tactical simulation, stepping back into one of the most famous and brutal eras of Japanese history.
So let's just get right to it. Here's the big question. Could just 20 modern Yakuza hold off 500 of Japan's absolute finest samurai? Now, I know what you're thinking. No way. But the answer might not be as simple as you think.
Okay, so let's set the scene. The year is 1582. It's the dead of night at Honno-ji temple. Smoke is everywhere. An entire army of samurai is closing in, ready to attack. But something inside that temple is very, very different from what history tells us.
And that's where our sandbox comes in. Think of this as a controlled experiment. We're taking modern, up-close and personal lethality and throwing it right up against the incredible, hardened discipline of ancient samurai warriors. So instead of the few bodyguards who are actually there, we're dropping in 20 Yakuza enforcers. And here's the absolute game changer. They're not just carrying guns. They're armed with suppressed submachine guns. And believe me, that one detail, it changes everything.
And that right there, that sets the stage for a massive clash of doctrines. This isn't just about swords versus guns. Oh no, it's about how each side thinks, how they approach a fight. Their entire philosophy of combat is on a collision course.
I mean, just look at the numbers. On paper, this looks like an absolute slaughter, right? 20 guys in suits against 500 warriors in full armor. The samurai have the numbers, they have the protection. But the Yakuza, they've got a secret weapon.
And this really gets to the heart of how differently these two groups fight. The Yakuza are all about urban lethality. It's fast, it's brutal, it's personal. The samurai, on the other hand, are masters of battlefield discipline. We're talking formations, honor, the whole 9 yards. They're basically veterans of two totally separate realities of war.
So how does it all go down? The first move, who fires the first shot? Or, in this case, the first silent projectile. This is where things get really interesting.
Okay, so the Yakuza aren't stupid. They're not going to meet 500 samurai in the open. No way. They're going to turn the temple itself into a weapon. They'll lock down all the choke points, those narrow gates and halls. They'll set up kill zones with overlapping fields of fire. And then they just wait. It's classic ambush 101, a modern playbook in an ancient setting. All right, picture this. The first wave of samurai charges in. They're expecting chaos, they're ready for the battle cries, maybe the roar of old matchlock guns, the clang of steel. But what they get is nothing. Just a dead, creepy silence.
And that silence, that right there is the key to this whole thing. See, the Yakuza's deadliest weapon isn't the gun itself, it's the psychological impact. It's a concept that we're going to call thunderless sorcery.
Think about it. For a 16th century samurai, every weapon makes a sound. A bow twangs, a gun roars. Sound equals danger. But here, guys are just falling. There's no bang, no flash. The connection between cause and effect is just gone. To them, this isn't war. It's got to feel like straight-up sorcery.
There's this quote that just nails it. Warriors fell as if struck by an invisible hand. Panic became a weapon far more effective than any blade. Can you imagine seeing that? The guy right next to you just drops. No sound, no reason. A battle-hardened mind simply has no category for that. It just doesn't compute.
And that psychological breakdown has immediate, disastrous tactical results. How do you give orders when you have no idea where the attack is even coming from? That kind of fear, the fear of the unknown, it spreads way faster than any command. The samurai's biggest strength, their legendary discipline, just completely crumbles when faced with something that feels, supernatural.
Okay, so let's pull back for a second and look at the big picture. Let's weigh this all out. In this totally wild matchup, who actually comes out on top?
Yeah, the samurai have numbers on their side. A lot of numbers. You can't argue with that. But the Yakuza's advantage isn't just the tech. It's the psychological warfare that tech unleashes. It's what we call a force multiplier. And it's so powerful, it might actually cancel out that huge 25-to-1 numbers gap, especially inside those temple walls. So at the end of the day, this isn't really about who's braver or tougher. Let's be clear, the samurai were incredibly courageous warriors. This is really about what happens when one army thinks they're in a fight and the other army is facing something that seems like it's from another world. It's not just a clash of tactics, it's a clash of entire realities.
So, sure, the Yakuza have the better weapon, but their real win comes from planting a terrifying idea into the minds of the samurai. The idea that death can be silent, invisible, and come from anywhere. And that really leaves us with one final thought to chew on. In a war, what really matters more? The weapon you're holding or the idea that's taking root in your enemy's